One of the strangest, most intimate experiences on a path inward is this: you begin to change while the people around you do not. Imagine this. You are a caterpillar moving sluggishly along a leaf, and somewhere inside you a metamorphosis begins. Your colors shift, your appetite wanes. There is a quiet reshaping of tissues, an urge to go into isolation. You are still among other caterpillars, but you are not the same creature. What happens next? Why outgrowing your friends could be a dangerous step. Not because you are better, not because you have won anything, but because belonging itself is a kind of safety. Lose that, and you stand exposed. If this resonates, comment one word below: changed, lonely, or grateful. It helps to know you are not alone. Look at that image for a moment. The caterpillar does not choose to be different because it wants to hurt its companions. It does not decide to abandon them in malice. It simply follows an inner necessity. But the process has stages. There is a time when the old skin does not fit, and the new form has not fully emerged. That is the lobster moment. In nature, when a lobster grows, it must shed its shell. For a while it is soft, vulnerable, easily harmed. The new shell will harden, but in that interval, the lobster is exposed. So too in personal transformation. There is a vulnerable in-between. That is the danger. Danger here is social and psychological. It is not a sensational warning of physical peril in most cases. It is the risk of losing the protective field of shared norms, jokes, rituals, assumptions, the invisible framework that tells you who you are. Friends offer not just company, but a mirror and a map. When the mirror no longer reflects you, and the map no longer traces your route, you may find yourself without direction, and that absence can be costly. It can unsettle appetite, identity, even sense of safety. You can become isolated. You can be misunderstood. You can experience subtle hostility. You can feel as if your past life were erased. Why does this split happen? What causes one person to begin overnight, as it seems, while everyone else remains anchored? There are simple triggers and slow, accumulative ones. A sudden crisis, loss, illness, near death, heartbreak can crack open a person overnight. Equally, a patient practice, meditation, honest inquiry, reading that clarifies a felt truth, can rearrange priorities quietly but thoroughly. Sometimes the world's noise recedes, and what seemed once important no longer holds weight. Status, spectacle, accumulation. You begin to ask different questions. You notice different things. You laugh at what used to bind you. Your humor changes. Your language shifts. You start attending to silence. This produces a two-world experience. By day, you may speak the language of work, bills, trends. By night, you sit with questions of meaning and presence. You move in two registers, the marketplace and the inner sanctuary. The mismatch creates friction. People sense it not only by words, but by energy, by the absence of the old hunger. You stop participating in certain rituals, the same jokes, the same gossip, and that absence registers as judgment or withdrawal. Friends may try to normalize you, coaxing you back to familiar lanes. Others may create distance, not out of malice, but discomfort. Some may react with suspicion, especially if your change undermines a shared identity or threatens what the group takes pride in. This is how the danger becomes real, not because something has been done to others, but because the community's cohesion is affected. Notice this. People do not need words to know you have changed. Your priorities show. You might skip a night out to sit in silence. You might stop buying into certain pursuits. You might speak gently about things that sound foreign to those you grew up with. They hear the shift. They feel the loss. And in many cases, they do not choose to travel with you. That choice is theirs, but it has consequences. What are the typical social reactions you will meet? First, there is the gentle drift. Friends stop calling us often. Casual invitations fade. Shared plans grow thin. Then there is the attempt to normalize. Jokes, ribbing, and reminders that you used to be fun are ways of bringing you back to the old map. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's explicit. Are you judging us? What's wrong with you? When people have invested identity in sameness, your change can feel like a betrayal. That can lead to avoidance, gossip, or, in some cases, antagonism. They may mobilize narratives to make sense of your oddity, labeling you as difficult, aloof, or self-righteous. All these reactions deepen the distance. Let me paint a small scene. A family dinner. The table crowded with food, the TV murmuring a game in the corner. You sit and conversation swirls around familiar topics. Who got promoted? Who bought a new car? Which neighbor offended whom? You try to speak about something else, a practice, a book, an inner experience, and a silence falls. A fork pauses. Someone laughs awkwardly. Is this another one of your phases? A relative asks, half joking. The energy changes. After that night, invitations might loosen. You are still there in body, but the thread connecting you to that circle is frayed. You will feel two things: grief for what was, and a quiet recognition that you can no longer participate fully. These are not moral failures on either side. They are facts of change. There is a temptation at this point that many recognize but few discuss openly: the double life. You learn to play a role. At midday, you speak the language expected of you. At night, you slip into the new vocabulary of presence. You wear a mask to preserve a sense of safety. It seems prudent, practical even, but the cost is real. Fragmentation sets in. Energy dissipates across performances. You become exhausted by maintaining two selves. You lose coherence. The hollowing effect is subtle at first. A tiredness, a dull headache, a sense of being split between loyalties. Over time, it can feel like a betrayal of your own discovery. Authenticity, that fragile currency of the inner journey, erodes. So what should one do? This is where the middle way becomes crucial. There is no neat roadmap, no guarantee, but there are principles. First, do not weaponize your change. Do not carry it as proof of superiority. Pride wounds, it alienates. Second, do not hide your discovery in total secrecy as a permanent strategy. Hiding may preserve surface ties, but it starves your growth. Third, honor those you came from. They were part of your life. They gave you belonging, stories, and a context. Hold gratitude. Remember, they are doing the best they can with the resources they have. Authenticity with compassion is the art. Authenticity means living in a manner that reflects what is true for you. Compassion means remembering the story of those who have not yet awakened to the same questions. You can be honest and kind at once. You can decline invitations that conflict with your practice without contempt. You can set boundaries without burnishing resentment. Say what you need to say. Do not perform enlightenment. Let integrity inform your choices. Practical navigation, then, looks like this. Maintain what can be kept authentically. Some friendships are resilient enough to bend and hold both you and the person you once were. Invest in those where mutual curiosity remains. Let go gently where bonds have become a drag on growth or a source of pain. Look for new circles, but do so without assuming that any new group will be perfect. Seek teachers and communities that resonate: monasteries, meditation groups, philosophical circles, volunteer networks, or simply people who ask good questions and listen well. Be open to unexpected allies: a neighbor, an artist, a coworker with a quiet depth you didn't notice before. And accept that loneliness is often part of the transition. Loneliness is not proof of failure. It can be a threshold. There is a dark night that many experience. It is not pleasant, and yet it is a sign that something important is occurring. You will be vulnerable. You will be lonely. You will be misunderstood. Say those lines and feel their weight. Repeat them until the fear softens. You will be vulnerable. You will be lonely. You will be misunderstood. Vulnerability is the soft place where real life enters. Loneliness is the space where you learn to be company for yourself. Misunderstanding sharpens your capacity for compassion. At the same time, notice when loneliness becomes harmful. Prolonged isolation that leads to despair, numbness, or the inability to function is not a noble badge. If your separation from others fuels a spiral, pervasive depression, inability to eat or sleep, thoughts of self-harm, reach out for professional support. This is practical care, not a failure of spirituality. Seek a therapist, a counselor, or a trusted medical professional. Keep community lines open where possible, a support group, an online circle, a local sangha, or spiritual center. Connection in some form is essential. There is another danger that sometimes goes unspoken: spiritual pride. When change sharpens into contempt for those who do not share your insights, you have fallen into a different harm. Pride builds walls. It converts vulnerability into armor. It tells you that your loneliness is proof of superiority. Avoid that trap. True depth dissolves the illusion of being better. It invites humility. It comes with a gentleness. You do not need others to validate your seeing. How then to respond when friends react with hostility or distance? Begin with curiosity. Ask a gentle question. What do you feel when I say this? Listen without defending. If there is blame, do not try to counter it with explanations ad infinitum. Your energy may say as much as your words. Maintain consistent kindness. Allow for silence. Let time show your changed conduct, your steadiness, your openness, your refusal to be punitive. People sometimes come around when they see no threat in your presence. And sometimes they do not. Accept that. Acceptance is not capitulation. It is a clear-eyed recognition of reality. You can grieve what is lost. Grief is necessary. Let it come. Sit with it. Do not rush to fix it with new certainties. Grief, properly felt, carves space for new forms of belonging to arise. It makes you tender. It enlarges your capacity for love. There will also be a practical recalibration of identity. Many of us rely on roles given by family, work, and community to answer, "Who am I?" As you change, these roles may no longer fit. You may lose status, or people may stop introducing you as they once did. This can feel like a small death. Attend to it with care. Build new rituals that reflect your current values. Cultivate daily practices, sitting, walking, creative acts, simple offerings, that anchor you beyond social mirrors. The inner life thrives on small disciplines, not for their virtue, but for their capacity to steady you. A caution here: do not treat the social cost as purely negative or purely positive. It is both. There is sorrow in loss, and there is liberation in the shedding. The lobster's vulnerability is painful. It is also the necessary passage to a more spacious shell. The butterfly's departure requires the caterpillar's solitude. These are not metaphors to justify harm. They are images to understand cost and process. There will be moments when you miss laughter that used to be effortless. There will be evenings when you wish for a hand on your shoulder. Honor those moments. They connect you to your humanness. When new relationships form, be patient. New communities often start small. A coffee with a stranger who listens like a friend. A weekly sit where faces become familiar. A workshop where mutual inquiry deepens. These are not immediate panaceas, and not all will last. Do not expect to transfer the exact intimacy of old friendships into new ones overnight. Trust the slow alchemy of shared time and sincere attention. Returning to the question of danger, when is outgrowing most likely to hurt you? When you are isolated without practices that sustain you. When you adopt an attitude of contempt. When you refuse to honor the past or feel ashamed of it. When you have no community at all and no professional support, if mental health falters. Those are the conditions that turn an inner rebirth into a precarious exile. Conversely, when you move with gentleness, keep gratitude alive, and seek new forms of belonging, the losses remain real but not ruinous. Now let us speak of courage. Courage here is simple and often quiet. It is the courage to face the grief, to sit without easy answers, to remain honest in small conversations. It is the courage to risk being misunderstood rather than to cover your truth with compliance. It is the courage to ask for help when the solitude becomes too sharp. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it breathes steadily through long nights. There is also an ethical edge. You have a responsibility not to use your insight as a weapon. That does not mean you must constantly justify yourself. It means you should avoid turning awakening into an ideology that dehumanizes. Hold your truth lightly. Encourage others without coercion. Be humble in the face of their world. They may never feel the same call you do. They still deserve respect and care. Remember the caterpillar and the butterfly. The butterfly does not judge the caterpillar for not flying. It simply flies. Let me offer a few concrete practices to navigate these months or years of transition. Practical, non-prescriptive, and gentle. First, create a truth practice. A short daily period when you attend to what is actual. Breath, body, feeling. This anchors you beyond narrative. Second, cultivate one honest relationship where you can speak of your inner life. A friend, a mentor, a teacher, someone who listens without needing conversion. Third, attend groups that value inquiry over ideology, meditation groups, reading circles, service projects. Fourth, keep gratitude as a habit. Write down what you miss and what you are thankful for. Gratitude softens grieving. Fifth, when separation becomes too heavy, seek professional support. A therapist can help you hold the space between change and isolation without pathologizing your growth. There will be moments when a friend returns, curious, tentative, maybe wary. Do not rush reconciliation. Let it unfold with mutual respect. Sometimes people grow together again. Sometimes they grow apart. Both outcomes are part of life. Neither is proof of failure. And what of the inner payoff? What is gained when you go through this dangerous step? You gain a clearer sense of who you are. You gain coherence between inner and outer life. You arrive at a freedom that is not the absence of ties, but the presence of chosen ones. Depth replaces pastime. Love becomes less dependent on approval. You carry a steadiness that comes from having faced your loneliness and not run from it. The cost was real, the gain is too. As we move toward a close, let this be clear. The danger in outgrowing your friends is not an indictment of change. It is a sober reminder that transformation has social consequences. It asks you to act with courage and compassion. It asks you not to romanticize suffering, nor to avoid it at all costs. It asks you to hold both grief and gratitude in the same palm. You will be vulnerable. You will be lonely. You will be misunderstood. And in that trembling place, you may meet yourself. Take a breath with that. Breathe in the loss. Breathe out the tenderness. Allow grief to enter without allowing it to define your life. Keep a small practice. Keep a hand extended. Carry gratitude like a lamp. If this has touched something in you, consider subscribing for more explorations like this. Share this with someone who might be on a similar path. And if you are in a hard place, please consider connecting with others in the comments or using the community link in the description. There are gentle circles that meet online and locally. Remember, solitude is often part of the path, but you do not have to walk it believing you are the only one. We began with a caterpillar and a lobster. I will end with an image. The butterfly does not forget the leaf. It carries memory in its wings. It does not despise the crawling life. It simply moves differently. You who are changing, carry the memory. Honor the leaf that held you, and allow your wings to open. Be careful, be brave, be kind.